you should have a sheet from the table. I'm not sure if you grabbed those. If you didn't already, you might want to grab one of those. And then on the table, there's one per table that essentially Pat Gardner here did a journaling as we went through that kind of kept track of everything we did. So some of it won't make sense to you. It might just be more for those that were traveling. In the group, Tim, there's one person back there. There you go. Thanks. A couple people. And but it helps you to kind of know the different things that we did, and kind of has correct spelling in there, which is always a challenge in Tanzania. So you might want both of those sheets. But the main one, what we're going to do today is kind of walk through this page that I had on the table that has at the top of it basic information about Tanzania. That'll be our order. I put the animals at the bottom because if we get started on animals, that'll be the whole hour. So we don't want to waste this time just all on animals, even though they're really wonderful. We want to focus on the whole purpose of why we're there. So just to give you some basics, we have 3 of us here from the trip. We had 6 that traveled with us. Doug and Lisa Kreckling came along as well. Doug, as you may know, is serving out at Galilee in Pewaukee. So he and Lisa are now attending church out there. And then Gretchen Haugse was with us as well, and she's leading the youth forum this morning, so she won't be with us at this session, but we have Cheryl Seebach. Cheryl traveled. This was her first time. She's traveled internationally to different places, but this was the first time to Africa and Tanzania. And Dr. Pat Gardner, this is his second time, so I'm going to have them do most of the talking. They're like, oh, really? I think you can handle it, right? So like I said, I want us to go through this agenda because really the reason we went at this time, we weren't necessarily planning on going to Tanzania this January. Normally January we reserve for El Salvador, but because our good friend Elias, who was pastor here about 12, 13 years ago, and led several of our trips over there. I led the first one for sure, and then came along with us on other ones. He was voted in August to be their new bishop, and so we wanted to be a part of that and have a group that was there celebrating with him. Just a quick note about that bishopness. I don't think that's the right word. But, what?
Bishopry.
Bishopry? That's not what you said, is it? Anyway, in terms of their church, the Tanzanian church there in Meru has been around for 25 years. They were formed 25 years ago, and they were formed in a crisis. What happened was they were a part of the Kilimanjaro Synod, and which is pretty close to where we were. And they started arguing with each other and arguing about splitting up and having 2 different dioceses, and some people wanted it, some people didn't want it, and it kind of became this big struggle. And finally, the national bishop just said, you're doing it, and you're going to be the bishop. And he made Bishop Paulo Akio the bishop. So there was no election for Paulo. Paulo was just made bishop. And so they didn't have an election at that time. Throughout every 6 years, they would do a vote, but it's interesting in their culture. Bishop looks and feels an awful lot like a tribal leader. So they understand what it means to be a tribe, and I think they live out a synod diocese in that way. The bishop has much more of a feel of being a tribal leader. And so you don't really question the tribal leader too much or push them too hard on things. And so he was already the bishop, so naturally he became the bishop again. And even when his term limits were up, he kind of said, I think I should keep doing this. And everybody said, you're the leader, okay. And so voted him in. So he had never really been, he was the only bishop that they knew. So Elias was truly, when Bishop Akio retired, he literally was one of their first bishops that they truly elected. and was elected by 77%. So huge percentage, first round votes. It was an exciting time. I got to be there in August and be there with him during that time, and it was really amazing just to kind of walk with him during that week and a half or so before the vote, because everywhere we went, people stopped him and talked to him, and even as we sat in his house for breakfast, people would just show up. I was kind of amazed at all the groups that would just keep showing up. And we were having breakfast one morning, and a group walks into his house and sits down in his living room. And it was kind of one of these like, there's a group here, right? I know. Should we talk to him? Yeah. Oh, we'll get to him in a minute. And they all kind of sat quietly because they knew they were interrupting. And so we finished our breakfast, and then everybody got up and got coffee for them and served them, and then he had a meeting with them. So there were a lot of groups that were coming in to have meetings and connect with him. I saw one interesting cultural tradition that happens. I had never seen this before, where I don't know if I mentioned this in my sabbatical talk, but one of the traditions is if you really want to impress or really push a leader to make a decision on something and be in your favor, you have a small boy and a small girl come and ask the question. And so they had a group show up. We were there for just in the day, and this group shows up and they had a small boy and a small girl, and they both knelt at his feet, and he said, uh-oh. Because you're not supposed to be able to say no. And the question was, they wanted a plot of land that he happened to own. He owned a plot of land down in town. It was just for farming, and they wanted it to start a new church. And so you have this little boy and little girl come and ask, and you can't say no. You have to give them the land. And so they came, and they were really excited about this, and he said, I'm really sorry, but I already sold it. He goes, I don't have it anymore. And they're like, oh. So, but it was really interesting that they used the little boy and girl to do this. So that was during my time in August. But as you see with our trip, I give you some basics about Tanzania in case you don't know much. They're 9 hours ahead of us. So right down the Rift Valley, which is kind of considered the birthplace of humanity. So 9 hours ahead of us. So they're ending their Sunday right now. It's approximately 7 p.m. at night right now in their time. So we're always trying to get our heads on right with that. It's not truly summer, but it's like 80 degrees usually in the day. It's a dry heat, so it felt very comfortable at night. It was just a little bit chilly, but very comfortable. The traveling took us quite a while to get there. One of the trips was about 33 hours door to door from when you leave your house, and we did a bus down to O'Hare and O'Hare to Detroit, and you got lots of layovers all the way along. And when you finally get there, it's an hour to get to your hotel, and so by the time you finally go to sleep, it's about 33 hours of travel. And it's very close to Kilimanjaro, one of the top 7 mountains in the world, probably one of the easiest to climb, even though it's still a hike, but it's one of the big ones. And I listed some of the foods that we have. So I'm going to do pictures while the two of you kind of share the mic, okay? And if you have questions, do you have questions immediately that you want to just ask about anything? As we go, if you have questions, we can go through those, okay? So why don't you guys come up and share the mic, and we'll use that as our agenda.
Okay. I don't know that we need the mic, it's relatively small.
It helps. It helps.
This is a shirt that I purchased last time we're there, and M is the singular and W is plural, so it's a hard M. So Mzungu is a white person, or Wazungu is white people, and you'll see all the little children who don't speak English point as they see you and yell, Mzungu, oh, and run away. They're very engaging and very nice, but I think Pastor Chris and Doug and I kind of presented some of this at the last men's breakfast, and one of the things that stood out for me was our small group did a Bible study last year on the prayer of Jabez. Oh Lord, bless me. Would you bless me indeed, enlarge my territory, and protect me from evil? And for me, that almost kind of summarized and encapsulated the entire trip. Truly a blessing. It's almost indescribable, the level of hospitality that they show us when we're there. From greeting us at the airport with a group of about 8 people, singing, putting leis on us, and really treating us more or better than family in many respects. Definitely enlarged our territory from a geographic perspective, as well as just for me personally getting to see friends that we had made 2 years ago, and for all of us getting to really expand our relationship with the Sinisi community, and definitely just a blessing all the way around. Do you want to talk about Pastor or Bishop Katoy's installation?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to picture. Do we have the pictures of walking down the roses?
Yeah.
We get there and we went to the head office, I guess you would call it. And like the other day, we went behind this wall and there was a few people gathered and people coming, and it didn't, kind of felt the same. And then all of a sudden we walked out the gates, and on this gravel, muddy, because they put water so there wouldn't be dust, as far as you could see, there were people walking, and all the bishops and different dignitaries, all in their long gowns, walking. It was just like, it was so amazing. It was just so, it looked like a pilgrimage as they walked in, and everybody was so excited, but it was so calm and beautiful. When you watch all the people come in, they were all excited, but it was all, I don't know, it was very moving. I think the thing that strikes me most about the whole thing is it was like over 6 hours long, and it was hot. But we got to sit in lawn chairs with arms, so that was good. And we had, at that time, a translator that was from Germany. So here's all this Swahili going on, and then we have this German guy in a heavy German accent, like translating. So your brain is like shifting in circles with everything you're saying. And a lot of the church is kind of connected with the state, it felt like. Because a lot of the dignitaries that talked were from the government. So I think that's how maybe they communicate with the churches more, what they want to get through to the people. But all in all, it was that was so interesting. And the choirs, of course, there were so many choirs there, and they all sing in harmony. It's beautiful.
I'm going to put up a little video. This is the procession into the installation.
We were running on the mud right over here.
Yeah.
So we kind of stay with the sea.
So they had a lot of the dignitaries in yellow. These are retired pastors in yellow. And all the pastors there with their red stoles. A couple of Milwaukee pastors that are in the gathering. Sinisi pastor is the guy in the middle, pastor. And then you have our bishop, Bishop Paul from Milwaukee, the only white guy in the group. And then all the bishops wore hats. So these are bishops from around the country of Tanzania. Let me turn off the lights in the middle. Is that helpful?
Okay.
Was Pastor Kaya there?
Pastor Kaya is in there. I think he was up near the front. So
There had actually been a service on Saturday for many of the people who had traveled there to be part of this, a separate service, about a 2 or 3 hour service where many of the people who had traveled actually got to speak, including Pastor Chris and Bishop Erickson. And then Sunday was the full installation. So there's actually really kind of a 3-day celebration. The following Monday there was a celebration at Bishop Katoy's house. The impressive thing was there were certainly more than 2,000 people there for this, and they accommodated everybody very well. And on this side of the road that we're standing on, what's right behind us is basically a plot of bare land that the diocese owns, and they had set up tents. And after this 6-hour service, everybody moved across the street to have dinner.
And everybody.
And it was a sit-down buffet dinner for
It looked like a
everybody that
wedding.
attended.
It was
very
all
much.
brightly colored, and yeah.
Wow.
And the celebration, their cake, whether it's wedding cake or any kind of celebration, is the goat. So it's certainly a sign of honor and respect to have a goat sacrificed and
I just
prepared.
can say, I love the goat. Everybody's like, you're gonna hate the goat. I'm like, I liked it. I
And the
thought it
lamb,
was
it's
good.
pretty much the
Yeah.
same thing. But they present the goats kind of fully dressed, so to speak. So we've seen one goat before, but this was over a dozen goats being rolled out, and it's actually the brother of the pastor at Singizi, who runs a catering service, who really provides fantastic food the entire time we're there. So this was quite a large celebration. And kind of along the lines of the level of hospitality that they have, at the end of the installation for Bishop Katoy, they said, and everyone's invited to Bishop Katoy's house afterwards. There's 2,000 people there, you're like, yeah, okay. And pretty much everybody went to Bishop Katoy's house after this ceremony, which is about a 20-minute drive, or certainly a good walk up a rather steep mountain, kind of the base of the mountain.
And I think a lot of people did walk there.
They did, and it's very dusty. There was kind of in the middle of a drought for them, so it's very dusty time. So after we had eaten here, we actually took a ride up to Bishop Katoy's house, and they had purchased some land and expanded his property about twofold and put in some large bathrooms to accommodate the crowd. And we had a second, basically wedding type, reception type celebration there, serving the same people who had been at the installation service. Most of the people's properties there have at least kind of some retaining wall around with a gate. The gate usually has a small door you can walk through, or they can open the gate for a vehicle to drive in. And there were probably in excess of several hundred people kind of amassed at the entrance to Bishop Katoy's house, all wanting to get in because they had been invited to greet him and congratulate him.
This is what we were.
This is outside of his house.
Undeniable, kind of little scariest thing for me ever, because everybody was like really pushing, and they were deciding who was going through the gate. And
Trying to go through this door.
Yeah. And then they grab all the white people by the hand and like drag them through and like shoot
This
them
is
through
the General Secretary's husband. He's trying to get us to follow. And we're trying to, and everybody's pushing towards that door. And most of these people are not actually on the guest list to go in the door. So they invited everybody back to the house, but not everybody was supposed to go into the interior. They all had food outside as well. So they had brought out all the food to the people, but because everybody's trying to push inside, it was a little nerve-wracking. So you see all these groups of people that are there.
You got the sense of just how much he is truly loved, Bishop Katoy, and how much people just wanted to be part of the entire experience.
And it wasn't like scary to the point like anything bad was going to happen. It just was so intense, and it didn't feel orderly. It was like they just grabbed it and sucked you through, and it was like, oh. And then you spit inside, and you're at this lovely event.
I'll show that in 1 second. I just want to point out this. So the event had taken place a couple hours before. Okay, so this was probably around 6, 7 at night. And so the event had taken place and finished around 2 or 3. In that time, the vendors had all the pictures they had taken. They had printed, laminated. They had them in frames that were wrapped, and they were selling them to people. We're like, I thought as we were walking past this, I was thinking this was all the normal iconic stuff, pictures of the saints or whatever that they sell. No, this is Elias. This is all these pictures here of the actual event. And he showed us one. I'm like, oh, did you do this beforehand? Was there a photo shoot early on? He goes, no, that was from the day. I'm like, you're kidding me. So, yeah, pretty amazing. I'll go to the inside of the house. So getting through the door, look at this.
So people were kind of lined up. This wall is kind of going down a hill, so people are literally lined up along the entire wall, kind of looking in the entire evening. And not only do they serve people inside here, but they actually did serve everybody outside of the gate and the walls as well. So really,
so you can see people looking in over the wall at this entire wall all the way along, with people that, and the wall is what, 8 feet tall. So now, what's also interesting about this is, as soon as he was voted in as bishop, his friends, there a committee formed, a lot of friends, people that loved him, and they said, they knew this is the tradition. You go back to the bishop's house and have a party. He goes, your house isn't going to work. And they said, we have to change your house. So literally, his yard used to end here. And they said, we're going to expand your house. And so literally it was a road right here that went right next to his gate. They took over the road. The neighbor's yard across the street, they bought up. They moved the road on the other side of this wall. They added that whole wall. There's a whole other section down here for parking. The section that we came through was over here, that where all those people were. And it was just, he's like, I can't believe what they're doing. He was just kind of, I keep telling them, don't do all this. This is way too much. But they're like, no, we need a good place for the bishop to live, and this has to be a place where you can entertain. And I was like, they did all that in a few months and got this all done. It was just crazy. So, pretty amazing. So they had this party inside.
People kind of always ask about the food. The food's actually very good. It's actually fairly bland, and it's very repetitive. So you pretty much eat the same meal just about every day.
But like 7 times. It felt like it. So every time we turn out, we're going to have tea. Oh, and a full meal.
We had the
Bananas, which are almost potato-like in texture and taste, kind of plantain-like. They're much more bland than our sweet bananas. They have some small sweet bananas, but bananas, some almost like a salad with cucumber and peppers and some dressing.
And
rice,
turmeric
rice,
and everything.
Turmeric, yeah.
So it was
Rice,
a really
little bit of
interesting
chicken.
spice. Maybe a chicken or 1 egg in the morning.
more goats.
Yeah.
So they call those bishop cake, babas kofu keke. And so literally, when they have a wedding, I always said, well, what do you mean this is your cake? And I said, well, you've got other cake, right? No, this is our cake. This is what we use. And they show you I've seen wedding pictures of couples, and they're cutting a cake. They're cutting this. And this is what they use as their special thing. So we thought it'd be kind of nice, humorous, especially with Elias, to get him one of our cakes. So on the way to the event, we stopped and we got a cake, and then we had our bishop give him the cake and give him the American cake. So this is receiving the cake. He knew the joke. Everybody else went, what? Nobody else got the joke. He kind of went, I get it.
When we were preparing to go, Gretchen made a point that we all had to look at what the goat looked like, because she did not want us to react how Pastor Chris reacted the first time.
Well, that first time when this shows up in front of you, it's one of those like, ooh. And they always say, this is for you, and you can take it with you if you'd like. And they said, and Elias kind of coached us and said, no, somebody actually did that. They said, oh, great, I don't know how I'll get it on the plane, but yeah. So they took it with them. Now, that's not the tradition. The tradition is to get a goat like this, and they give it to you, and then you say, well, I think we should all share. And so then they go, and everybody kind of, yay, let's share. And so then they start cutting it up, and what's good about being at the head table is you get all the best pieces. Because the pieces at the end are not edible according to us, but I've seen people eat them. So to get those more lean piece of meat, it's just just like pork. It's very good that way. But otherwise, but to have this, 3 feet in front of you, and especially your first time, it's a bit of an eyeful. So, but it's what everybody expects there. So a lot of dignitaries, a lot of his family, and pastors, and leaders from other congregations. These are all bishops from around the country, national bishops. There's the guy on the far right with the blue coat. He's one of the leaders. I forget what his title was, but he's got the Tanzania tie. He's one of the national leaders, but he wasn't the president.
Regional district representative.
Okay, right, regional district representative. So that's always a big thing. There he is, receiving. So you always give kind of the most honored person in the room, the goat first, and so he literally gives it to this guy first. So it's showing honor to different people. This is the committee that did the wall, that did his house, that put this party together. They paid for it. They raised all the money themselves to do this. So they came out and they did a big celebration where he gave them a bit of cake. Then people had gifts from him. They had a painting of Ellie and Elias. I don't know if you could see that. So all sorts of wonderful things. There it is. So that was quite a night. And the whole day was just a huge, huge celebration.
This started about 2 in the afternoon and ended about 9 o'clock at night or so, and then we're staying at host homes. So 6 of us, kind of two of us a piece stayed in one host home. Incredibly generous. Most of them had vacated a bedroom and dedicated to us. A lot of them have bed nettings for you, bottled water, and certainly we left this, so we're at about 9 o'clock at night. And it's almost disrespect to not serve somebody a meal. So if you come to somebody's house and you're stopping in for tea is still chai, milk and chai tea, maziwa chai, and coffee, and then a full spread again of rice and bananas and some food. So we got home from this event, this is meal, essentially like number 3, and they still had a full meal for us there, ready at our host homes. So just great hospitality. So we stayed in host homes for that first weekend. And then the day following this, Monday, was almost kind of like a post-wedding gift opening. We got up and late in the morning went back to Bishop Katoy's house, which was a little bit more intimate, and again, for some of the people who had traveled, some partner congregations from Germany, ourselves, the bishop, and some other people from the Milwaukee Synod that you can see here. And we again had lunch and had an opportunity to actually spend a little bit more intimate time with Bishop Katoy and Ellie and give them some gifts as well.
There was a few more from Milwaukee there at this time, but that weren't here at this day. But this is the majority of the Milwaukee people, pastors and leaders from the area. Far left is the president of the committee, Ruth Ann Rohde, and far left, right behind her, is our treasurer for the Meru committee. Meru committee meets here at St. Matthew's in this room on the second Saturday of every month. So if you ever want to get involved in the Meru committee and be a part of the, it's really interesting. We do a lot of different work of raising money for, and doing work and connections and communication with our partners in Tanzania, so it's great. 2 real special gifts that came through St. Matthew's that the committee is very excited about. We had a $15,000 anonymous gift that was given towards one of the primary school in the area, Cary Parish. They're trying to get a whole school going, and we had one of our members hear about that wanted to contribute to a schoolhouse, and very generously gave a wonderful gift to help them get going. And another gift that just came in recently, that went to the hospital. We went to visit the hospital right before we went to Elias' house. The lady on the right is the administrator from Belgium, and her father there. And we toured the facility. Pat brought a whole bunch of medicines, very precious medicines for their hospital. Donated those. This is the maternity ward with its incubator. That's the incubator. Red light bulb. Right. One second.
We took them primarily antibiotics. They have some access in country, but one of the things they're challenged with is quality. So even some of the things they have access to, they have no idea what the quality is, and sometimes poor. So a lot of perioperative antibiotics that they need for pre-surgery and post-surgery. And their pharmacy, actually last time the pharmacy was that wall on the left, essentially. And they have expanded it and do have a little bit more availability than what they had last time, but still certainly challenged to get things.
Yeah, I was amazed to see
quality.
the change here with this additional room with more stuff, so that was great.
And that crucial, they had a brand new maternity bed that they had just purchased, and then another mission group had actually built that baby warmer for them, which is very functional.
Yeah. So it's the hospital at one point was behind, I forget, 9 months in salaries?
Almost a year.
Almost a year in salaries was what they were behind. Actually, with this administrator, Tanya, she's really helped them get caught up. They're almost caught up. They're about a month behind, I believe it was. And one of their other big things, they do a lot of orthopedic surgeries and a lot of accidents, a lot of motorcycle accidents. We actually saw one of the accidents, the post-effect of the accident, 2 guys laying on the road, one obviously dead, and another man very injured. So a lot of them do surgeries here. They don't have an x-ray machine. So they literally have to take them into town to a different x-ray machine, get those x-rays, and then bring them out to this hospital to be operated on. So there's a promise now by a Belgium Rotary group to pay for a new x-ray machine, which is about $100,000. So the promise is there, they don't have the money yet, but then on top of it, once they get the machine, there's gonna be lots of work that will need to go into electrical work to get it ready. They actually have to do a whole new transformer inside the compound to make this work, because the transformer outside people have tapped into with their own lines, and it's not working very well. And then just other things, supplies for the X-ray machine. So we actually just received a second donation, another wonderful donation by a person here at St. Matthew's who is giving $25,000 to get that done. So, and they were estimating 10 to 15 to get that other stuff done. So, so there's lots of emails going around right now celebrating, and everybody's excited about how this money has been received. And St. Matthew's gets to be the name on from this generous person giving. So, really excited about the stuff that's taking place there.
Some of the needs are a little less sexy or exciting. I mean, they literally have a roof that's leaking into the operating room that they have that needs to be fixed. And the transformer is a government transformer outside the property, and they literally lose power several times a day, so including in the middle of surgery. So they have some real basic needs to get reliable power source and then add X-ray equipment.
Yeah. So it's exciting to see what's happening and how the hospital is coming around. Both of their main doctors are now fully functioning. For different periods of time, they were out of the country getting training, and they're both now done and back. And so feels like everything's kind of moving now at full steam, which is really great. Exciting.
And how far was that from Signisi?
The hospital's about it's about 20 minutes drive.
Bishop Katoy's home.
Yeah, it's in Mulala, so it's pretty close to Bishop Katoy's house. But imagine being, I mean, this is the stories you hear, people being about to give birth and they have to walk. You know, it's a half an hour drive to get there, but they have to walk. Can you imagine that? It brings up the
And not on
Tiffany's
sidewalks,
story.
it's like unlevel, very unlevel ground.
Yeah, it's rough. We did in the morning before going to the hospital. We're kind of doing this day backwards, but we went and did a little visiting of seeing some of the people of Signisi and visiting some of the widows, visiting the people that were sick, and just kind of going around. This is a lady, I forget how old she said she was.
105.
105. And we went to her house and just had a prayer with her and said hello. And I have to show you a video for her because she is just a hoot.
It's a very vibrant 105.
So she was so excited that we showed up. This is her singing to us. She goes on.
This is Masai, I don't know. Even me, I don't know. I don't know this is Masai. This is the Masai.
This is her house. So it's 2 rooms. As Ben said, he would visit us.
She said the goodness. She said that she don't know if there is a woman who has an age like her, but she don't know how to give God how the chiefs got to give the God because of the age and ethnicity she has.
She doesn't know how to thank God enough for the gifts of her age and how she has lived her life. So
The God to give the God. So song is
Is a gift to God.
is sung. What do we do? Kasana leni. Wacha America. Washe pisana. Na.
she's saying thank you for that. Because we said your song is a gift.
Furana we. Titere we. Alafu tende. Weni wanga kusoma. Washa mweleka kumumrolia se. Angwe sana ndi. Aresilede. Alindo aresilede. Akubisa amile. Atashoro nde sena hako. Aliki aji.
Kita nando gani video da zenjo ke umur.
Chanyane jo.
Jandu nandong. Jandu nandong.
So, I won't go on because we can't understand what she's saying. But it's just fascinating to just that sense of welcome that comes from that, and that she welcomed us into her house, and it was, it was just wonderful to be with her. So
It's kind of a big honor for somebody to visit
Yeah.
the house, especially a pastor.
yeah, we Bill has done that before. How many people here have been on one of our trips? We've had a bunch of you, so have gotten to experience that. But it's really a wonderful thing to be there and just that sense of how they welcome us, but also there is a sense of like, I don't want to make more of ourselves than this, but they're honored to have us there, which we don't feel that way. We're just us, But there is something about really special about going and visiting them and being with them, having a prayer, and they really emphasize that and say thank you for the visits. But man, we walked away from that visit with just this sense of how wonderful it was to be with her and see her smile and hear her songs, and she just kept going on. It was great. So, should we keep moving? Where are we at? Compassion, yeah. Let's do a Compassion Saturday.
The second Saturday that we were there, Benson, who was in that shot translating for us, is the director for Compassion International. And Compassion puts on a program every Saturday for the children, pretty much age 3 up through a small number of high school students. So that's probably the most enjoyable day. Just a chance to spend time with the kids who literally swarm you as you get out of the vehicle and are just incredibly friendly. Did some crafts, so Gretchen had some crafts for us to do with the kids. And you make
Pony beads
assumptions-
were a little issue.
You make assumptions going in about numbers, and once you start a craft, everybody wants to do the craft. So if it was something designed for the smaller children, the older children and the adults all want to do it. So we quickly had lots of people swarming us, making some fish and crosses with beads, doing some paper art. Just getting to spend the morning with the children, and then we had lunch, and afterwards some of the older kids got Bibles as well.
They're just like American kids, you say you can only make one, they sneak in and make 3. And they were all putting the beads in their mouth. And you can't tell them not to do that because you don't speak Swahili, at least not as good as Pastor Chris.
I get that.
So I'm like, Benson, they're all putting beads in their mouths. And he comes over and says something to him, and they all go. I think they thought they were candy or something, but.
For a while we thought we had run out, but 2 of the girls had taken a bowl of beads for themselves.
And then it quickly went to bracelets because helping them, bending into shapes when you can't explain how to do it, we're like, I think we'll just go to bracelets. But you can see a bunch of them having them on.
Benson started having fun with it.
He did.
And then the kids started having fun with it.
Yeah.
They were making all these silly shapes. So we had, they had about 300 kids there.
Was that the pastor that was in the picture?
Yeah, Pastor Charles.
Pastor Charles.
Pastor Charles is the new associate pastor. So Pastor Paulo Rio, is the senior pastor.
And he was the assistant bishop before?
He still is.
Okay.
Yeah, assistant to the bishop, yeah. So, and Benson's runs the compassion project at Singisi. So that's why he's this. Every Saturday they bring all the kids together that receive compassion scholarships, and they do essentially a Sunday school time with them, maybe some crafts, maybe some projects, learning.
Lots of singing.
A lot of singing.
Dancing.
Then they have a lunch for them.
Compassion put in a deep well, basically for the village, and in the Singisi compound right adjacent to the church. So there's constantly a flow of sometimes young children and people just coming back and forth, just getting water that they're putting in 5-gallon pails and carrying back to their homes oftentimes on their pet. So it's really a busy place and definitely a kind of a center for the entire community, the church itself.
And then once you were there, when you went to church, all the little kids wanted to hold your hand, and they took up a lot of pew space, so we had to keep swishing them out of there because they all wanted to sit by you, and it was the children were just lovely. They were so fun.
Once we were done, we gave everybody a sucker, which is really a challenge because they really are good at getting one, hiding it, and getting back in line.
Just like the American kids.
Right, wait a minute, I've seen you before.
Then we ran out of suckers before we got to the older kids, and the teacher said to us, that is not going to be good. They are not going to be happy. I said, no, we're going to give them Starburst. You're only going to give them 1 Starburst? No, we're going to give them 5. Okay, that'll be fine. If you give them 5, it'll be okay.
This is the senior pastor in the plaid shirt. And they had Bibles for all the kids that they were giving them. So we got to be a part of the line that handed out the Bibles.
Were the Bibles in Swahili or English?
Swahili. They start teaching in English in 7th grade. So I think it's after 7th grade they start receiving, learning English.
There's one little girl that kept sneaking out. Her name was Anna. She'd say a few words in English. I'm like, you know English? No English, eh? I said, does your parents know English? Yes. And I said, then you know English. She gets a big smile on her face. But she wouldn't say, this is it right here. She would not say past that. But every once in a while, you'd hear American word and it's just like, aha, you know English.
We, let's see, they, must have eaten before.
It looks like they went away from uniforms.
Yeah, they weren't using uniforms at that time.
They have school during the week. They do. I mean, as they're coming home from school, they all wear
Right.
uniforms to school. But at Compassion, it's kind of Saturday clothes.
There was still tie-dye T-shirts from a couple years ago when the group went. A lot of kids had them on yet.
I thought I had pictures of
Looks like you got just a few pictures.
Yeah. Times 3 of us. I mean,
It's a little hard to find.
Part of the day is they get fed, and you can tell for a lot of the kids, even the small ones, this may be the biggest meal they have, certainly for the day or maybe for the week. And last time we were there, I think the two of us were spooning out plates full. Darla and I were helping serve. And we'd start to put some on, and then you've got a little child who's maybe 3 or 4, and they'd say, keep going, keep going, keep going. Literally, you've got a plate like this high. So you definitely see it's a big thing for them to have this Saturday Compassion event where they get to spend time at church, they get a big meal, and a lot of them are certainly dressed up in their Sunday clothes to be there.
This was actually the Saturday before, but you get a feel for the meal.
We saw one little boy picking up rice off the dirt and a little piece of plastic from the craft that we had. And, you know, it looked concerning to me as a mother, like, oh, you know, there's dirt on it. And I said to Benson, should he be doing that? He goes, well, he's probably going to take that home and the rice will be rinsed off and probably fed to his brothers and sisters or something. So it was, you know, it's how their life is.
It's some seafood that day. So, yeah. So it was really nice.
After we were there for a while, they all wanted to push the buttons on the camera. It was funny.
Let's see what else. One thing we always like to do on Saturday mornings is go into town and go to the market. People on Saturdays, they buy all their food from a market in town and they bring stuff to sell, they bring stuff to trade. So these are ladies walking past Singisi with bunches of bananas for sale that they
And this
pull off
is
the
how
trees.
dusty it looked the whole time we were there. It just had this,
Yeah.
from the dust on the road. It was like having henna. You took your sandals off and it was imprinted with the dust in your arms. They give you something to wash your hands with and you go like this. And I'm like, I'm sorry, your toes all brown from the dirt.
I don't know if you've been to like the Westalis Farmers Market or some of the true like food markets in the area. This is probably about 10 times that size, and half of it is food and the other half is actually clothing. So we were in the food half, and we'd bring along some money, and as we purchase things, people would then allow us to take a few pictures.
Well, and the houses we stayed in didn't really have kitchens because most of them cook outside of their home, but they don't have any like packaged goods that they keep. So they don't have cupboards filled with boxes of noodles and all that kind of stuff. They cook for that meal, and then when it's done, the food is done, and you don't see like our cupboards full of food.
So some of them have maybe a dorm-sized refrigerator, but pretty much what they told us, what Pastor Toy's sons were sharing with us, Emmanuel and Steve, is that basically anything they're cooking that takes more than 10 or 15 minutes, they're cooking over coal or wood. So most of their food preparation is still done old school.
What was that
prickly
fruit
thing?
or
Yeah.
vegetable or whatever that was all that great big
It's
thing?
jackfruit.
It's kind of a melonish,
Jackfruit.
isn't it?
Like melon?
It's jackfruit. It looks like
That's
a giant
it.
knobby pear.
Yeah,
But it was like about like this big.
yeah. It's like melon?
We didn't get to have any.
It's
Oh.
not really like melon. I can't describe it. It's more chewy.
Oh.
Really? Because I just saw that one had a slice out of it. It kind of looked like, who knows? The bananas didn't taste like bananas either. So.
We had to look it up when we got back. I did a little thing on Facebook.
Hmm.
But yeah, so going into the market, it's just kind of, everybody's got a little blanket they put their stuff out on, and they wait for someone to buy their stuff or trade, and it's just, they don't like you to really take their picture, but if you buy their stuff, then it's okay, all right. I guess. So, it's kind of neat that way.
Our translator, we gave her money to buy her groceries so we could take pictures.
These are snacks, salty fish is a snack. So, some millet. This is the banana section of the produce.
And at the end of the day, market day, you saw people walking back into the village carrying their bananas yet, so they probably didn't make a trade for all those bananas.
There's Pastor Kaya. People were asking about him. So he came along to the market with us. This is always kind of interesting to me because to show that you're talking with someone, to show that you're connected, to show that you're listening intently, to show that you're friends, you just walk up and take their hand and walk with them. So this happens with men too. You know, Pastor Kaya did that with me often, and we grab my hand and we just walk and be like, okay, I'm a little uncomfortable here. But it's just very, very cultural to, just walk up behind someone and grab their hand and walk with them, or sit really close to them and hold their hand and talk with them. It's like, okay.
It's not a culture where you walk by someone and say, hey, how you doing, and keep on walking. I mean, that's an incredible insult. So it is truly a handshake, face-to-face conversation, sit down, and it's very, very much more intimate.
So that was what we did that morning. Any questions people have right now?
Does the curio market reopen?
Yes. Curio market, yeah, the curio market burned down. So there's a market. Let's see if I can find the picture on Monday.
It has some concrete structure to it, but it looks almost exactly like it
Oh, okay.
We spent our last day at a really nice hotel. So this is to show you the difference of, you can.
This is about a half a mile from the market, actually.
Yeah. So it's a Serena hotel, it's just gorgeous, and coffee on the veranda. So it was one of those last spots that we stopped before we went, and wonderful meal and huge buffet. So they have stuff like this in Tanzania too. It's not like everything is really difficult. But this is right outside the hotel. The houses are outside. But this is a curio market, so this is rebuilt. It burned down, but they rebuilt it with a cover and everything, which actually makes it more hot. And all these little stalls where they each stall has different stuff for sale. And I wish I'd bought this, but I was joking with her. This is just a dust rag that she had, and I was like, is this for sale? She's like, it's a dust rag. Why would you sell a dust rag? I'm like, it looks really cool. And she's like, sure, I'll sell it to you. $20. And then I'm like, no, I want a dust rag.
Pastor Chris is brutal when it comes to getting his price. He'll be standing over there going, and I'm like,
It's a little
I
game.
think it's fair.
It's a little bit of a game.
I always felt bad. I felt like they needed the money, so I felt like the last person I bought from, I gave her all my leftover money that I had left, which wasn't a lot, but I still had 2 shillings. So I said, here, just take all of this because we're leaving tomorrow.
These are the guys I was most brutal with. We were buying 50 little crosses as confirmation or graduation gifts. They're still smiling at the end. So.
These shops are about 8 by 8, and there's, as Chris showed, there's 4 rows of them that connect on each end.
This is a shop. This is a shop.
You quickly get the impression
But
that
then they
many of
just
these
kind of
people are
block the
related.
gate when you're in there.
Many of the people are related and selling together, and once the person at the front stall has learned your name, everybody down the entire aisle knows your name and is beckoning you to come and see my shop, come in my shop.
Chris, come in, Chris. That's your number.
It's high pressure selling, but it's how they're making a living, and they're definitely bartering.
It was warm in the sun, so they were covering up. They literally make all these bead things. We've got some up on the table here if you want to check them out. But so that's a curio market that's in town. There's a lot of things for sale.
Does Sandishi trace its,
I'm
Is it
guessing.
organized and managed by?
I would guess they're at least made an
It's
ask.
not a fairly common open market.
I don't think it's no. It's gated. So yeah. Herb.
yes, does Sandishi parish trace its roots back to the 1880s when the German made it a colony? Yeah.
I would guess so. They talk about coming from the whole diocese has got a German background and flavor to it, so it's very stoic in a lot of its structure, and it's in how church goes, you know, the liturgy. So yeah. Gretchen's here. Do you want to say anything, Gretchen? Yeah, Lowell.
Good question too. The time that you've been visiting there, which has been 10 or 12 years,
12.
I'm just wondering what changes you've observed. For
Yeah.
better or for worse,
So,
in that church or that culture.
right. It's interesting. The first time we went, there weren't as many vehicles, there weren't as many motorcycles. They were starting to come in. I remember them talking about getting a motorcycle for one of the evangelists, but that was a really rare thing. Every couple years that we've gone back, it's gotten more and more. Now motorcycles are everywhere.
And they drive everywhere.
And they're just kind of crazy drivers. That's been a big thing. Last time we went 2 years ago, there was kind of this real concern for that because a lot of people are getting hurt. The orthopedic doctor actually said to us he was fearing that they were going to lose an entire generation of people due to the motorcycle accidents that were taking place. And there's still a lot of accidents going on and people are really concerned. One thing I noticed though, the difference, and I maybe might have talked about this during my sabbatical talk, so forgive me if I did, but one thing I noticed was how much it has opened up to them the flexibility of getting around. So if you want to, you don't have a car, you don't have a motorcycle, but you need to get to town and it's a 3-hour walk, you know, half an hour drive, 20-minute drive, but a 3-hour walk. For $1, you can hitch a ride on the back of one of those motorcycles, and they're all sitting around at the street corner waiting to give a ride. And so literally, now you can get to town in 3 hours, you can sell your stuff, you can get to the market early, you can, you know, when I was at Pastor Elias's house, Ellie's mom came to visit. And she showed up kind of around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and she's 90 plus. I think she'd say 95. I don't know if that's accurate or not. And I said, oh, where does she live? She goes, well, she lives in Dombo. I'm like, in Dombo? That's like a 40-minute drive. And I said, well, how'd she get here? Well, she walked.
That's why she's 90-something.
But and it's way up. It's up the hill. It's up Mount Meru. So she walked down Mount Meru, across town, up Mulala to the house. And, this tiny little frail lady. And by the time the night was done, we had eaten. We eat at about 9 there. All the meals, they eat supper around 9 o'clock at night. After the meal was done, she was ready to walk home. She's gonna walk home at 10 at night, and it's like, it's gotta be at least a 4-hour walk.
And it's so dark when it's dark there because they don't have like big street lights and all that kind of stuff. So, and the roads are narrow and they're bumpy and the people walk on the sides and the cars go by very close. Like we'd be like, but they just.
So they said, well, we'll grab her a taxi. And they paid somebody to drive her to home. So that just shows you how you can now get around. You have to have $1, but it's one of these things where it's almost like the economy. You can feel it moving faster because of that, and you can sense that there's more sales going on. There's more work happening. They have a new president, and his motto is "Work, we work," and that was actually one of the struggles that's going on now because there's a drought happening, and the crops aren't coming in. And people are, not having the food that they had. And the president says, he actually made the claim, we don't have a drought here. We just have to work harder. So he's telling the whole country, you got to work harder. If you want to eat, you got to work harder.
Yeah.
And the churches are going, yeah, but. And the churches are the ones that are kind of saying, yes, it's good that we work, but the happy medium is there's no crops, and we have to do something about that, and we have to take care of each other and share, and what we do have. So there's been a lot of good stuff. The work ethic that he's imposing is helping things happening. The whole Moshi Highway, the one major paved highway in town, is actually being redone. And they're actually adding it's becoming a divided highway. It's going to be really safe in that way. So there's a lot of good things happening. He cleared a lot of the government offices because they were just there to, just to collect the paycheck. He said, if you're not working, you're out. And he knew exactly who they were and fired them all. And so in a lot of ways, there's some good stuff happening. But, that can be taken too far. The whole business first model can be taken too far, So anyway, he's doing good stuff. I think the economy is coming along. Because there's more cars and more cyclists on the road, it's traffic jam everywhere. So what used to take you 20 minutes to go from Singisi past Arusha, now it takes about an hour. So, that kind of stuff is like, we're sitting in traffic waiting. So that's not progress. So, but that's some things. I don't know if anybody want to mention it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say that I've only been there twice, but what I noticed from the first to the second trip was when you compare like those bumpy dirt roads that sound so dangerous to us, I think people are so aware of who is on those roads. They're aware of pedestrians, they're aware of motorcyclists.
Because they're going slower.
They're going slower. They know that there are turns and pivots coming so that they're careful at those. And I think everybody exercises a certain amount of care that I don't think they exercise on the new, safer Moshi Highway because it's a wide open strip and they can go flying down the highway.
And started walking on that because it's easier than walking on the bumpy dirt on the side. So you have people and motorcycles.
In some ways, I feel like what we deem progress maybe isn't. In some ways, it helps them, it opens up their economy, it helps them get from point A to point B faster. But in some ways, you can see how it's not necessarily helpful in some ways.
Well, Alex's concern 2 years ago was that they were going to lose their ability to draw the tourists because there was going to be so much poaching going on in the natural areas. Is that still his concern, or
made more tourists?
Poaching.
The poaching going on in the.
He didn't say anything.
I'll talk about that.
What's the status of women in their society?
It's a much more hierarchical society than our society is. And the first time I went, 2 years ago, and I think Darla saw this too, it did seem, there were very few women pastors in the church, whereas in El Salvador, half the pastors are women. I did notice more women involved in the church this time. It's a very traditional society in terms of marriage. What's expected of women, even if they work full-time, like Rachel, who's been one of our translators, works full-time, but she's still expected to cook at home in the traditional ways. So
it's very patriarchal.
It's
I mean,
very,
the
yeah.
host homes that we're staying in, the women are preparing the meal, and they're pretty much unseen. And we have dinner with the man and the children, and the woman eats last and pretty much doesn't speak to us. And if we talk to them, may have a monosyllabic answer, and that's pretty much it.
So that wasn't our experience, but I think,
Right.
I mean,
That definitely
we
has been ours.
stayed with some very strong women.
Yes.
So I think that may have been the exception too.
Gretchen and I were talking with Rachel, who kind of translated for us last trip and was with us against this time. And last time we were there, she was a month away from getting married. And we were asking her about learning to cook and doing things that were marriage. And she said, oh yeah, I have to learn to cook now or I'll be sent home. We're like, what do you mean to be sent home? She's like, well, if I'm not a good wife, my husband will send me back.
Send me back till I
So
learn.
that maybe tells you kind of everything right there.
We also found with, Rachel was telling us about how they do have paid maternity leave, which I know is a big question here now. And we said, are you going to have another baby because their little one is 1?
Yeah.
1.5 maybe? And she said, no, I can't get pregnant yet because I wouldn't get my full paid maternity leave if I get, it had to be 2 years from the time the baby was born until she got pregnant again or something like that. So she was waiting so that she could have another paid maternity leave.
We've got about 5 minutes left. We did do a couple safaris. We didn't want to start with this because we spent the whole time talking about it, but had great trips with the safaris. One morning got up and there was a pride of 7 lions going out for a hunt, and they were
hunting was right next to where we were.
So our hotel was like right near here. The funny thing is there was also a guy out who thought it'd be really great to go jogging.
But that was my question about that older woman that walked all the way for a 4-hour walk. Wouldn't she encounter a lion somewhere? I mean, if she's walking out by herself?
Most of the animals are in the national park.
Okay.
And which, they've kind of moved them out. There are monkeys, there's other animals, but, Elias would say, sure, in theory, they could come that way, but I think they usually stay in their areas.
This was a young group of lions. They still had spots on their legs and stuff. One had a tracking collar on already, a female of the pride group.
So they were going after these water buffalo. I want to show you one, if I can find it. One thing that you want to talk about getting stuck.
Sure. So, and due to the park we were in is unique for all of Tanzania in that there's no restricted trails. You can drive wherever you want. So if the lions are way over there, you can drive right up to them.
Or the hippos.
Which is awesome from an experience perspective. The downside is what happened to us in the evening. So about 5:30 in the evening, we were driving around Lake Ndutu, which is about half the size it usually is because of the drought. And there were hippos on the other side. And our driver, Alex, who we had last time, was kind of doing the perimeter to go over. And we saw another vehicle kind of coming opposite us, come about halfway and then stop and go back and change course and realize that it wasn't a good direction to go. When we got close to the hippos and the truck kind of did a dip, and
that happened in 1 second.
Alex got us out, and about 100 yards later we did a bigger dip and Alex got out and came back and said, this isn't good. And the vehicle was buried up to the frame in mud, but it's basically lake bed, and this
like
is volcanic kind of silvery blue mud that there's zero traction in. So we kind of all got out and yelled and screamed for the only other vehicle you could see 4 miles as the sun is going down in the middle of the national park, and they came to try and help us.
And it's funny, they tell you never get out of your vehicle when you're on safari. Now we're all out of the vehicle.
Not too far away from where the lions were.
Yeah.
Doug and I were kind of looking opposite directions.
I don't know who the guy is with a head, but ignore him.
Doug found a bone and started digging with a bone. This is not gonna work. This took about 2 hours to solve.
It was pretty surreal because the other driver of this vehicle, they happened to be Americans from Wyoming. And then we realized we weren't getting out of here, and the other driver had a sat phone and he could call for a tractor to come pull us out, which took about another hour. But all of a sudden we look, and the other driver has set up a table and
With
massage
a tablecloth.
kind of like this with wine and beer, and we were literally singing German.
And now
drinking
no one
songs.
is looking to see if there's any animals coming at this point at all.
Well, I was just like.
I'm still looking.
No,
Oh, you were?
the Tanzanians didn't seem nervous about the lions, so.
So finally a tractor shows up and hooked us out and got us out. But there was also, right over on the right, were about 10 hippos, which are actually some of the most dangerous animals, so we're kind of watching.
And now it's dark, they're getting out of the water.
But that's why we were going that way, was to go see the hippos. So anyway.
The one driver said he was stuck that one time, 30 hours before they got it solved, somebody came and solved it.
Any last questions? The safari was awesome, by the way. See if we can get back.
Elias's children, are they all still staying here?
Stephen is thinking about staying there.
There?
He's thinking about it, but he'll come back here for a little bit. He's the only unmarried one, not married. And the other two are married to Americans. And so I believe they're planning on staying here, yeah.
Are they both still in the area?
Emmanuel's down in Chicago, Naperville area, and Laura, I believe, is here.
I think Laura's here and Stephen's in Waukesha.
Yeah, Stephen's in Waukesha, yeah. He's been doing carpentry kind of stuff, so. Thanks, everybody.